Sup nerds, Tom here, and I'm going to talk about both expansions for Architects of the West Kingdom, because this one here, this doesn't add all that much. I don't think it really needs its own video, and like this one adds more, but still not too much. And I mean, I guess I kind of want to talk about the big box thing a little bit too, and whatever, let's just do it. So I'm going to talk about the Age of Artisans first, probably, because again, this one has a little bit of stuff, not too much. First of all, it gives you the ability, gives you orange, a new player color, so you can play it with up to 6 players, which I think is doable. I don't know. I mean, I think this game is great at 3 and 4 players. I mean, 5 gets a little crowded, so 6 would probably... Again, the turns go by fast, and everybody knows what they're doing if they're all kind of experienced players. Sure. You also get this little overlay thing that goes over the guild hall. It is a double layered, which I think is really cool, because then the pieces don't slide around. There's also a playmat. I don't have it yet, but I do really want to get the playmat, but I would almost maybe even still put this overlay on the playmat just so that things don't slide around. But the reason for that is there are these new cards up here on the top. These are sort of like attachments that you put onto apprentices or onto buildings. And this is probably the biggest thing that this expansion adds, and my favorite thing. So the bottom ones, again, they go onto apprentices. So like you buy the card and you can either use the top half or the bottom half. The bottom half goes onto apprentices and it sort of augments their ability. So it can either give them additional resources, or it can give them, like, if the character, if the apprentice triggers at the guild hall, it could give them like an additional action to do there. Not guild hall, what's it called? King's Storehouse. That could give them an additional action to do there. And that is really cool. But it can be a little bit clunky. Sometimes the way the abilities trigger and how this would add to that is a little bit funky. There could be like timing issues, and things like that. But what I like even better, actually, is the things that go on top of buildings. They give you instant ability and points. The bottom half does give you points, but in like a set collection, kind of the more you have, the more points you get kind of thing. The top half just give you an instant ability, which is usually pretty good, and then just add varying number of points to the building itself. And building buildings is the main way to get points in this game. So the fact that you can make those buildings worth even more points, or you could kind of now be incentivized to build some of the smaller, quicker buildings, and then you can augment them to make them worth even more points, so you can build them faster and stuff. It's definitely a good thing. And then last but not least, this adds a Grande Worker kind of thing. It's like a bigger dude. When you put him down there, he counts as like 2 dudes for the purposes of triggering things. And also, I think he avoids virtue loss or something. If you were to lose virtue when you put this big guy down, he doesn't lose virtue or whatever, so that's pretty good. It's a minor little thing. That's fun. So Works of Wonder is definitely the one that adds a lot more stuff. You have this extra board here on the edge here. And the main thing is these Works of Wonder. So these are big old building cards that are sitting out here that anybody can build, but they're expensive as heck. They all require a whole lot of one resource. So there's like one for each type of resource. And then you have to spend this blue track, which is a new track, and I'll talk about that, and then some coins. But once you do that, you'll instantly go up to virtue, and then you actually get to take the building piece and put it on the board on certain spots. And now whenever you go there, not other players, whenever you put your people there, you get like a little bit of a bonus. So you get... you can act as if you have an extra dude there, so sort of like the Grande Worker. And I guess if you put the Grande Worker, it would be like worth 3. And you can also move up the blue track. So the blue track is another track over here that the game adds. At the end of the game, whoever has the most blue, whoever's the highest up on the blue track will get 4 gold. But also, you can spend your position on the blue track to do a couple of things. To avoid spending costs, to avoid losing virtue, losing money, or to avoid spending a marble or a gold. And that's like the main reason why it's good. There's no points, no like direct points printed on there. There aren't really, that I noticed, any card effects that have to do with where you are on there, other than like losing it in order to avoid the paying of cost and things. There are spots on there that would allow you to, whenever you pass over them, draw more building cards, which that's good, but otherwise the blue track is, you definitely think about that secondary. Yeah, move up and whatever, that's cool, but what I'm really focused on is the virtue track, and your position on there is way more important. And then this also adds 2 like NPC meeples that kind of go onto spots. There are cards that will randomize and tell you what spots they are at. They're not in the spot, they're just kind of there. And whenever you place workers at those spots, you will gain benefits. And then when the black market reset triggers, if you have people there, it will trigger some effects. And again, those are dictated on a card that switches every round. The black dude, whenever you place somebody there, it's the same thing. And whenever you capture other players' stuff there, it's the same thing. But at the end of the round, when the black market resets, if you have anybody there, any player who has workers there will get the negative effect. And then with the white lady, whoever has the most people there will get the positive effect, actually. I think it's his effects tend to be more negative than her effect. It's the princess and the murderer. I don't know. I think just overall the fact that each of these meeples has 3 different effects with different like triggers, and they're not the same between them, right? It's, again, you're going to be referencing that kind of a bit. And one of the things that like the princess lets you do is contribute. You make a contribution. You put a resource here, and you can move up the blue track or gain little rewards. And then whenever the black market resets, these resources get moved onto the Works of Wonder, so their costs go down a little bit. So it's pretty obvious that this one adds more stuff. This is a more complicated expansion. So if you are reluctant to add in expansions to a game when you're teaching to new players, this would probably be the one that I would leave out. Age of Artisans is way easier. It's an auto include for me, pretty much. And actually, I do really like the idea of just playing this game as is, like this, with these 2. I don't know if I'd ever play the base game again. I mean, again, I might remove Works of Wonder just because it can add a decent amount of clunk. And if you know the base game really well, this isn't hard. It's not a big deal to reference these to see what they do. But if you have to constantly reference these and reference every other space, and wait, what is the guild hall again? Okay, that could cause some problems. But I certainly have taught this game to experienced gamers with everything included, and it hasn't really been a problem. Like, the teach was a little long, and there was maybe a little fumbling at the beginning, but, every time it's done well. So honestly, I'm not super against the idea of just, this is the way the game is right now. It's both of these. Again, if I have to remove one, sure, Works of Wonder. I actually like Works of Wonder a little bit more because I like the additional stuff. It beefs it up to like a more epic gaming experience. But again, for new players, I understand that Age of Artisans is the auto include. But also, we've got the big box here. I think this was part of like a Kickstarter, but I think it is also in retail. I think you can still get this. It doesn't look like it's that much bigger, but it is. These expansion boxes is like the dimensions of the base game box, and I know Garfield does that a lot with like almost all of their games, and I think they're starting to get away from that, and I hope they continue to do that, because it is really annoying. I do think these boxes are just too small. There's too much game in there for you to really fit it on. Like, especially Hadrian's Wall was almost like egregious. But this big box, which again I'm glad I have, is about the same size as most boxes. Most regular game boxes are this size, and everything does fit in there, but the insert is just like okay. You kind of have to really jam things in there, so I might actually most likely just going to get rid of the insert and baggy everything, or if somebody makes like a custom insert or whatever. Overall, I do love Architects. It's not my favorite worker placement game, but it might be in my top 10. I mean, we do have a full review for the base game on our channel. You can check that out. And I do love Garfield games in general. I think they're starting to really make a name for themselves in the industry. They're doing really well. Everything of theirs that I have played has always been good. I've never had a bad experience, but I haven't played everything, actually. In fact, so far, in the West Kingdom trilogy, this is the only one I've played. Now, I have played like Raiders and whatever, so I've gotten a good taste of their games. Again, I know they're really great, so I'm very confident that I'm going to like Paladins or this I don't know how to pronounce the other one. In fact, in the comments, tell me which one do you like the best out of all 3 or whatever, And speaking of comments, while you're down there typing away, down there's going to be a link for this game and the expansion, the big, whatever, everything is going to be down there with links, so you can click on them and you can buy this stuff. Also down there is going to be a link for Game Topper. It's what we're filming on here. We absolutely love Game Toppers. They're the sponsor for Neverboard Gaming. They are phenomenal. We highly recommend you go check them out. And also, while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored, but boom.